Hi everyone and welcome to another tutorial by Madison Studios. We're going to be going through how to paint with hues today, and what inspired this tutorial was seeing this image in a B&Q warehouse, and I just loved the way the colours blended together within the drop of paint, and I just loved the logo. It looks brilliant. So what I wanted to do is try to recreate this in Photoshop using hues, obviously. So this is the composition I've set up with our background of the drop, and what we're going to be doing is setting up a new layer and setting its default as hue within the blending modes. You just saw a menu there pop up. Well, they are your blending modes, and the great thing with blending modes is they make your image appear as one, if that makes sense. Instead of making it look like they're two separate images, it merges the two. Now this image was downloaded from DeviantArt by a photographer called Manuel Pro. But anyway, to get us started, let's set up a new layer and go to Hue. And this is what we're trying to recreate on that layer 1. Now you can see how when it's painted, the hue takes all the drops and shadows into account. But turning it back onto a normal blending mode, you can see it's just simply block colour that's painted with different strengths of the paintbrush. So going on to our layer 1, we're all set to hue. But another important thing is to set up our windows. Now the great thing with Photoshop as well is we can put the same image into windows. The advantage of that is, let's say you're working on 2 monitors, you could then drag that second window onto the second monitor, get very close up onto the other monitor, work in all those fine details, and that's then reflected on that other image or that other monitor. So this is a great way of working, and as you'll see as we're working through this tutorial, how that new water underscore splash window updates accordingly. Now we've gone for the 3 layout window, as it were, so that we can keep referring back to the Crown Paint poster, just to remind ourselves that's what we're going for. It's easy to get lost in the little details and everything. So adjusting our paintbrush, choosing the colour that we originally started off with, which is a pretty basic red really. You can see as we're painting, it's taking into account the hue blending mode that's been applied to that layer, and straight away it looks as if it should be red. Notice also what's happening in that second window. Every time I take my finger off of the left mouse click, or if you're on a tablet, take your finger off of it, it updates it accordingly, which is brilliant. So now just adjusting the size of the paintbrush to bring out those finer details in Manuel's photo. Obviously in the Crown one they didn't have these little extra bits sort of thing, but we're trying to go for an effect. So then as we come out, you can work pretty loosely with this technique, because at the end of the day we're just laying down the colour, and then we're coming back to, and then you come back to it a 3rd time and refine it if need be. So it's very much plonking the colour, as it were, onto the canvas. And as you can see, I'm flitting between paintbrush and eraser. Now the eraser shortcut key is E and the brush is B, coincidentally. but obviously I'm flitting in between very quickly to simply refine it as I'm going, so it means less work hopefully later on. Now, what's being highlighted there is when you think of it as a 3D model, as it were, if you were to model that drop, where that line is being sort of highlighted there, where the cursor is right now, that's where the water droplet would be curving up and away from you. And what I was pointing out there is on that line is where we're also going to have to concentrate on the reflection within the water. So it's just something to bear in mind, but for now you paint it all as one colour and concentrate on that reflection later, simply using the eraser tool. But of course we don't want to skimp on the detail in the reflection, so go in, refine it. So as we're going through, we're just sort of refining it using the burn tool, which gives it that beautiful 3D quality. And now we're going to be choosing the second colour, which is that purple. Bit of a, personally, a minging purple. It's horrible, but it works very well as a hue, and it also works as a complement of that red. Now something I will show you, and it sort of comes with a bit of a warning, is that if you use two colours that are completely opposite, let's say for example we're to use a red and a blue, you would get this really odd sort of haze, like a watermark, where the two colours meet and the feathers sort of contrast and everything. It's absolutely horrible. So just be aware of that, and that's the reason why I've gone for a purple and a red, so that the two complement each other. Now what's being illustrated here is that hard edge that is created using the red and the blue. It's absolutely minging, so just be aware of that. Again, just making sure we're reworking all those finer details. And then I'm going to have to concentrate on the reflection. Now, interestingly, if you were to imagine the droplet in 3D, what we were actually painting there is one of the offshoots that was round the corner, and it's being reflected into the membrane and everything. So to have painted that would have been inaccurate. But obviously we're going to be painting that with a bit of a blue tinge to it in a bit, and you'll see where the two meet up. But what we're doing here is we're just using the smudge tool to blend the two colours together to sort of create, you know, what was in that original crown photo or 3D model, that sort of blending of the two colours. And using the smudge tool does that really nicely. It also helps you to get those real fine nuances. It really is just a case of just being patient, enjoying the process, and just refining it all the time. So now, using the eraser tool, and bearing in mind the line of reflection that was brought out a little bit earlier on, we're going to enlarge our eraser tool, and we're going to lower the opacity to around 40%, because now what we're going to do in effect is completely wipe it out, that reflection. And now notice what happens. It all of a sudden takes on this really nice sort of reflective quality. It's beautiful, really like that. But something to bear in mind is if you are going to do it in one foul swoop, as it were. Don't click 40%, then click again 40%, and gradually erase it, because what that does is it creates this mottled effect, which isn't correct. If it's going to be a reflection, it's going to be all one colour. So just bear that in mind. And there you go. So I hope you found this really helpful, and thank you for subscribing. Take care.